Thank you so much for joining our webinar today on product updates from Q1. We're really excited to share with you some of our really exciting updates that we've made. You may have interacted with some things or some of these might be new to you today, but nonetheless, we're really excited to dive in. All right, so we'll kick it off with some introductions. I can start. My name is Haley Yeager, product manager at Northspire. I am based in St. Petersburg, Florida. I have a background in real estate and construction, and I work on our analytics and budgeting side of the product.
And hi, everyone. I'm Eileen, another one of your product managers. I overlook a lot of the data input, cost tracking, and project manager features that you're familiar with. I'm based out of New York City, and I've been here for over 2 years now. Prior to Northspire, I worked at Deutsche Bank, where I got experience in financial technology.
Awesome. And I'm Sandra, your last product manager on the team, also based in New York City. And my background is in design and information systems. And I specialize in Northspire in the construction tools and vendor collaboration features. With that, I'll let Haley kick it off. Again, we're so excited that you guys are here.
All right. So we just want to give a plug for our customer success and support teams. Probably all know your dedicated real estate transformation consultants. They are a wealth of knowledge. Many have backgrounds in real estate or construction, or the others have SaaS experience. So a really great combination of knowledge sharing amongst that team themselves as well. We also have a concierge help desk. Oftentimes your RETC might be traveling to see customers or on a customer call. So if you really need like a quick response, you can shoot an email to our concierge team at concierge@northspire.com. They're also available in the chat box within the application. So again, we'll probably get a quicker response if you need something on the fly, if your RETC is tied up. And then lastly, we have a knowledge base as well that has 350 articles available to you. If you prefer the self-help method, this is a really good avenue. Covers just about everything on the platform. All right. So after today's webinar, we have some more scheduled for the rest of April. April 10th is going to be a deep dive into spending projections. So our cash flow tool. This is a really, really powerful tool. If you're not already using it, I highly recommend joining that session. Following that, we have another Northspire 101. So framework for modernizing your development process. That'll be more of a general overview. April 19th, we have one on our integration with QuickBooks Online. This is one of our more recent accounting integrations. So if you're using that and not already set up on it, definitely join and reach out to your RETC to get set up. Following that, we have producing a world-class draw package. So this is another like basic Northspire function of generating your draw requests, but it'll cover some of the more advanced functions of how you can tailor and customize your draw. And then lastly, we have a report builder deep dive on April 26th. So if you haven't already, feel free to register for those and join some of the upcoming webinars. But as for our agenda today, I'm going to be covering cloning projects as well as getting started in the document library. Eileen's going to cover schedule sharing, data inbox, vendor collaboration, and vendor ratings. And then lastly, Sandra's going to cover bid management with AI insights. All right. As for some key learning outcomes, I won't read through this, but you should have a lot of great things that you can take away and really utilize in the platform after today's session. All right, with that, I'll encourage you to open up a browser, log into Northspire, and follow along. Really helpful to just follow the click path so that you can better retain some of the things we covered today. All right, so getting started with cloning data from past projects. I'm going to jump into Northspire. And right now I'm on our quick project setup page. So if you have ever seen the create new project button, which is at the top right of the portfolio manager, if you haven't clicked that, once you do, this is what you'll see. This is where you can create a free plan project for your early opportunity and pre-development projects. But basically you'll enter in your project name, add a development site, or if you have an existing development site that this project should go on, you can reuse that. Zip code, your construction type, asset type, square footage, and then this organization is only something I'm seeing. You shouldn't see that. But again, just a few short 6 steps to get your new project created. And the final step is to choose between these last 2 options. The first is to use recommended categories. So If you maybe don't have an existing budget line hierarchy or a way of setting up your budgets already, we have some recommended categories based on the construction type of your project. But if you do already have some projects in the system, you have a template, you have like a system of doing things already in Northspire established, you can use this previous project option, which is what we're going to go over today. So from here, you'll get a drop down of projects within your organization portfolio that you can clone from. And once you do that, you have quite a few options. Some of these were existing, and then we've added a few new ones that are really powerful. So I just want to cover all of them. The first one is your budget line structure. This is, again, your budget line names and the hierarchy for your budget lines. Next is your tasks and dependencies from schedules. So we won't pull in like the dates because, of course, those are likely going to change on your new project, but everything else from your schedule tool, again, you can just recycle and reuse. Your document library folder structure. So this is the folder hierarchy for your documents, just so that you don't have to sort of manually reinvent the wheel and add those. You can import those as well. And then we have some advanced options as well. So if you have accounting cost codes, whether you're using a 1 or 2-way integration mapped to your budget lines, you can clone those over as well. We specifically only clone those that typically aren't project specific. And then cash flow budget line curve fits. So in our cash flow feature, which again is that next webinar with a deep dive on that feature will be coming next. But this is where you can clone over the curve fits for all of the budget lines, since you're again reusing the budget lines from that project so that you don't have to go in and update any of those unless they need to be updated. You can always use this as a starting point. And then finally, we have an option to pre-populate budget estimates based on a unit cost from the project that we're cloning. So before Northspire, you might, teams often find themselves reinventing the wheel, spending valuable time and resources on tasks that have already been tackled in the past. So by tapping into the collective knowledge stored within our platform, you can jumpstart your projects with valuable insights and best practices from previous projects. All right, next up, organizing documents. So if you joined the document library webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago, we went over this, but if you didn't, it might be new to you. So right now I'm on a blank state document library. So let's say you missed the opportunity to import folders in the previous step, or getting started with your first project in Northspire. We've added this Get Started block to make the transition into your new system of record as smooth as possible. So I'm going to start from the right and work my way left. This first option is to use an existing folder structure. So this is basically identical to what you would have been doing had you cloned over the folder hierarchy and what I just demonstrated. So you can select a project, you'll get a little preview of the folder tree in that project that's interactive. You can see all the layers, and from there you could import this. So this is a really great option if you've already sort of established a template that you want to use across your portfolio. It's just as simple as, importing that, and then you're on your way to better organization. This next option to import your own folders is basically just where you're able to pull in an existing folders and files from, for example, your hard drive, upload those. We'll, of course, retain the structure of all of the nested folders and files. So this is a really great option if you have a later stage project that maybe you're onboarding and you just need to pull, in one bulk swoop, pull in all of that data into your new system of record. And then lastly, we have a recommended folder structure. So this is, again, just a pretty comprehensive list of all document types that you might expect to see on a real estate development project. So again, you get a little preview of what that looks like and can import it into your project. So not only, is this just going to help you stay organized from the beginning, but it's ideally simultaneously mitigating risk on your project by enabling some of those checks and balances of ensuring you're getting all of the documents you need over the course of a project lifecycle. All right. And with that, I'll turn it over to Eileen.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley, for some of those exciting document library updates. Let me share my screen. There we go. As some of you know, over a year ago, we launched a group of features to make Northspire your command center, a single software solution where you can manage all of your documents, schedule, and vendors in one place. So the document library was one of those key new features, which in addition to the newer features that Haley just shared, we've made incremental additions and improvements to, like the ability to share documents with your vendors. So our schedule feature was another key feature as part of that release, and following in the document library's footsteps, we've been making some strides this year to really enable collaboration amongst key stakeholders like your vendors who don't normally have access to your Northspire projects. So let's dive into a demo to see what's new in Q1. And if you'd like to follow along, I'm going to navigate now to my schedule page here. So in addition to our robust functionalities like defining task dependencies or associating documents and notes, this quarter we've built even more advanced capabilities to ensure that you have all the tools you need to stay ahead of your schedule. For example, as your project progresses and task dates change, you can see how you perform against your projected or target timeline by showing baselines here. These are great dates to track against, and we also have clear color coding so you know whether you're ahead, behind, or right on schedule. We've also expanded our export options so that you can now, for example, export your Gantt chart with fully flexible options for the selected columns, date range, and included tasks. Our new Excel download also includes every single detail about every task, so that's right at your fingertips. And finally, we've heard your feedback, and now we have sticky sorting so that anytime you adjust the ordering of tasks or milestones, that order will save and reflect in both the detailed view here below and in any of the exports. And now we understand that in order to have your schedule tracking be as effective as possible, collaboration with all key parties is crucial. So we've built a seamless and easy way to share tasks and assign responsibilities to vendors. So to get started, simply click on the task that you would like to share and navigate to the Sharing and Permissions tab, where you have access to all the existing contacts for your vendors with the ability to add new contacts if they don't already exist on your project. You can easily share all related tasks at once with the ability to share all parent tasks, subtasks, task dependencies, and even simultaneously assign responsibility to this vendor. And once you share, you have full control over whether that vendor will be a viewer or an editor. And your vendor will now receive an email notification of these newly shared tasks where they will be invited to join Northspire's vendor portal to view only the tasks that have been shared with them. So because we want to provide the most seamless experience for all parties, we also have a vendor portal for any of the vendors you work with so that they have their very own vendor-specific login to use Northspire. So let me log in as a vendor user now to show you what that looks like. So as a vendor, I only have access to the pages and items that you have explicitly shared. Here I've pulled up the same project from the vendor's perspective, where I've shared just the first milestone with this vendor. As you can see, this vendor can now view or edit those shared items without seeing anything else that has not been shared. And just like in your typical Northspire view, the vendor portal also has a portfolio view, so that as a vendor, I can see and manage all the projects that I have access to. At this portfolio view, you'll also see that this vendor has their very own data inbox, where they can upload invoices and track the progress and status of that invoice as you, the owner, accepts or rejects the invoice from your own inbox. Now, in order to make your vendor collaboration even more seamless, we've also added a few other ways that you can invite and collaborate with vendors. So let's jump back to your Northspire view and hop into the data inbox. First, on this page, we've added a direct way to invite vendors to access their vendor portals with this Invite Vendor button at the top. We make it easy to access any existing vendor contacts you have, as well as add any new contacts to your project. And by sending invites to vendors, they will be able to leverage their own inbox, as you just saw, with robust status tracking, as well as unlock access to any of those features where we've enabled sharing. Another feature that we've added to make communication seamless and transparent is the ability to reject inbox transactions back to the sender with a comment. So let's say you've received an invoice with an error. As you reject that invoice, you can easily let the vendor know that there's an error, in which case you can select to notify that vendor, where the vendor can then seamlessly resolve those errors and send back a corrected file. Now, every real estate developer knows that success is only achievable with an excellent team of vendors and solid communication and collaboration. So I've already showed you a few of those tools that improve vendor collaboration to reduce risk, manage your projects more effectively, and ultimately save you money. In addition to those vendor collaboration tools, I also want to show you some more internal tools that improve the way that you manage your vendors with your team. So let's now navigate to the project vendor overview page, where you can now review vendors and see their ratings. So let's say I had a great experience working with this vendor, Woods Bagot, for the first time, and I want to keep that in mind for the next time that I work on projects. All I need to do is rate my vendor, add any notes that I want to remember for the future, and share my review. After I share my review, I have direct access to all historical reviews for my team for all the vendors my organization has ever worked with in my vendor directory page. So let's say in the future, I'm starting a new project in a different city and need some new reliable vendors that I'm unfamiliar with. I can access notes from my other teammates across the country to locate historically reliable vendors. Even more, I can leverage our vendor marketplace and see what experiences organizations outside of my own have had with various vendors, even the ones that my company has never worked with before. So in my vendor marketplace, I have an entire Northspire community of transparent comments and reviews. Now that I can easily rate and leave comments on vendors, I've created a transparent trail of my experiences for my organization and beyond. And by exploring real-time user feedback from other organizations in our vendor marketplace, my team and I can now empower informed decision-making like never before. And there's a few more updates here with vendor collaborations, so I'll hand it off to Sandra to talk even more about some exciting new insight-driven tools.
Awesome. Thanks, Eileen. We're so excited to have a more robust schedule tool and be able to work with vendors directly on Northspire and even save the vendors that we want to work with in the future. That's so cool. We're going to switch gears a little bit now and talk about another one of our major updates, and something you might have seen in our last webinar for Northspire AI, which is our new upgraded bid management feature, complete with AI insights to help you save money during the bidding process. It's a powerful tool, and we're so excited to finally be sharing with you. So let's jump into it. So starting off on the early budget planner, which you can find up at the first item of your navigation, if you want to follow along. This is going to be where you can iterate during your deal opportunity pursuit and due diligence phases, map out various scenarios during your potential future project budget, and even manage a deal into early pre-development with things like automated spending projections and invoice tracking. This is also where you'll see some of your AI cost savings, as you see up here, identified with Northspire AI. And this is where we're going to see our estimated cost savings for these specific scopes of work that you see on my screen. And we're going to save these amounts by bidding out to vendors, which I'm going to show you how in a moment. I do want to preface that if you are following along and you are on the early budget planner right now, you're probably noticing that you don't see this Northspire AI banner, and that's because this feature is still in beta mode. So a little bit more on that. You can apply to be a beta tester by reaching out to Concierge or your RATC for more information. But currently this feature is only available to our beta testers. So a bit more about our savings. You can see your predicted savings for each scope of work that you have available on your budget. And so if I scroll down to something like architecture, you'll see that we have a savings of almost $300,000, and that's what we're estimating for you based off of this specific budget line. So this amount is being calculated based off of data about known vendors in the market who can perform specifically this type of work, as well as cost data and research that predicts the optimal number of bidders to get the lowest bid in a given market context. So to make these recommendations, Northspire is looking at data that it knows about tens of thousands of vendors who have worked on all kinds of projects in Northspire. So if you look at the data about these vendors, you can start to see signals about when a vendor might be primed to bid lower than usual, as well as similar projects that the vendor has worked on, and a greater understanding about which geographic and metropolitan markets they have performed work. And so those are the recommended vendors that we are showing you on this list, and they're ordered from the highest recommendation to the lowest. We are then using this data to build a complex model that is also informed by academic research on construction and real estate development bidding to make a prediction about which vendors should be added to your bid list to optimize the number of vendors. So I'm going to start my RFP now and create an RFP. If you already have one, you can simply invite your vendor to it if you want to try out one of our recommended vendors just by hitting this invite button and selecting the RFP. But because we have redone our whole RFP creation process, it's now faster and easier than ever. I do want to walk you through that as well. So the first thing I want to highlight here is that even though there's 5 steps, I could easily make an entire RFP in less than a minute just by clicking through it. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you some of the really cool in-depth features that we've added, but just know that this process is super, super simple if you want it to be. So I have an existing budget line selected because I clicked on this from the architecture scope of work. That's going to be pre-selected. And then you have the option for bidders to submit their own proposal documents. Note that this is tagged with AI because we are analyzing those submissions and those PDFs that they submit. But you can also create a proposal form for your bidders if you want to do so. So if I go next, you'll see this is super fast because everything is autofilled. We've already named it and given it a description. You can edit those as you see fit, as well as change the contract and the square footage or the bid rounds if you want to. But I'm going to leave everything as default here and move to the next step. You can also set a bid deadline. So I'm just going to say the end of April. And then add any bid managers. By default, you'll always be selected, but you can add anyone on your team that you want to manage these bids with you. And lastly, you have your milestones. So we've added a ton of features to this schedule tool that Eileen had just mentioned. One of those being that you can now import from your Northspire schedule. So I can select some construction tasks that I want to add specific to this RFP. I'm going to select actually everything in construction. Save that, and you can see that it saves as a milestone that's added to my bid. We're now going to finish this process, and then I'm going to show you how to invite vendors and how to view those AI analytics. So let's say you've invited your vendors, you've chosen some of your recommended vendors, and maybe you've also invited some that you already know well and love, and it's been a couple weeks and they've all submitted their bids. So the other piece of the AI analytics is that it's going to show you when potential scope items are missing from your bid so that you can avoid hundreds of thousands of dollars in change orders down the road. So you can see I have 2 bids now submitted on my architecture RFP from different vendors. And if I view the details, I have a full list of all of those scope items identified as inclusions and potentially missing scope here. So our advanced AI technology is analyzing all of the pages submitted by your vendor to scan for these inclusions and missing scope items so that you don't rack up hundreds of thousands of change orders down the road. You'll notice these are also broken down into different categories. So here we have design and planning, construction and compliance, budgeting and value optimization, and interior and specialized design. And so you can expand and close all of those to view all of the items and specific categories that are relevant to you and your bid. If you're wondering where these insights come from, they're based off of thousands of contracts and proposals that have been uploaded by Northspire and analyzed for the most common inclusions for a specific project type and scope of work. You can also mouse over any of these info icons to get some additional context about what each of these items might mean. So you can see site analysis is the assessment of the site's conditions, features, and constraints to inform design decisions. Once you view all of these potentially missing scope items, you can select specific ones to send to your vendor, and it's as easy as that. Once you've already invited your vendor to bid and they've submitted it, this message is going to go directly to them, and you can edit it if you need to, add any relevant information, and send. So it's that easy. They can then take those recommendations into consideration, submit a new bid in a following bid round, which is just going to save you so much money down the road and not have to deal with those change orders later that cost you tons of thousands of dollars. Another feature that I want to highlight that we've added per your request, we've heard this time and time again, is that you want to be able to upload on behalf of your vendor for vendors that perhaps might not be as willing to get into the system and upload their own bids. So you now have the ability to do so. If you hit this upload bids button, you can select the vendor that you want to upload the bid for, add the proposal amount, and then drag and drop any files. So this is going to be a very similar interface to what the vendor sees, and you'll still get all of those AI analytics on that bid. It's just going to be doing it in place of the vendor. So in addition to these bid AI analytics, we also have added it to our bid comparison tool, where you can see the proposed total amount to help you decide on a bid to follow up with, as well as see all of the potentially missing scope items to help you reach a decision. Once you know what vendor you want to hire, the hiring process is very easy. So all I have to do is click this hire button, and then the vendor will get an email notifying them that they've been awarded the work, and this RFP will move to closed. You can also very easily create a commitment from the vendor proposal to track on your anticipated cost report. So just keeping this checkbox checked will do so. So with one more confirmation, your vendor is now hired and you're on your way to a successful project. So there's a ton more features with that new bid management feature, all of the AI analytics with that. Again, it's still in beta, so please do reach out if you want to apply to be a beta tester, because we're always looking for more. But yeah, we're so excited to finally get to show those features to you. We do have a little bit of homework for you, and a couple of action items based off of what we've mentioned today. So some of those include importing a folder hierarchy to a recently created project, inviting 3 vendors to Northspire via the data inbox or schedule, and leaving some ratings on vendors that you've worked with to increase visibility throughout your company, as well as set up a new opportunity in Northspire to break out a budget with your early budget planner, and then create an RFP and invite 3 vendors to bid. That's all we wanted to show you today. Thank you so much for making it this far. We're now going to open it up to questions if you guys have any. And feel free to leave questions in the Q&A button. You should see that down below on the Zoom toolbar. The chat works as well, but we are monitoring all of those. We'll hang on for maybe another 30 seconds or so. It doesn't look like we see any questions coming in. But again, really want to thank you for making it this far, all the way to the end, especially on a Friday afternoon. So we really appreciate your time. If you don't have any questions, feel free to hop off. We hope you have an amazing Friday and the rest of your weekend. And if you do think of anything in the meantime, feel free to reach out to the concierge team or your real estate transformation consultant. They can always reach out to us, and yeah, we'll always be in touch. All right, thanks again so much for your time.